here.
All right, welcome
No,
guys to another
don't send an
CyberSec
ad
Tuesday
here. Send
tonight.
an at everyone.
Welcome to another CyberSec Tuesday, where the information community meets up every Tuesday at 6 p.m. here on our Discord server. For those that are watching us live or are watching us in the future, if you're not yet on our Discord server, please join us at null44.org/join. Just a quick shout out before we get things started. Big shout out to our sponsor, ArcLight6. They're a consulting company that focuses on engineering and consulting on cybersecurity, networking, and software engineering. So feel free to check them out over at ArcLight6. Tonight we got Jesse, TFIR Jesse on here. He's going to be discussing model context protocols, also known as MCP, which is usually related on how AI interacts with tools. This talk will be specifically in your lab environment using a tool called LUDUS. LUDUS, for those that aren't familiar with it, it's a command line. It's a command line tool. Whole entire ecosystem that interacts with Proxmox to deploy quick virtualized cybersecurity labs for training, testing, and security research. Jesse, feel free to take it away.
Right on. Thanks for the great introduction, Sean. So cool. Hello, welcome everyone. Thanks for coming out to this talk. I'm going to talk about, as Sean said, LUDUS MCP server. It's a tool that I've been experimenting lately, mostly to get familiar with what this MCP thing is that everybody's talking about. It's like all this hype. I'm like, I don't even understand what that means. So I decided to find something that I wanted to learn, and this popped up, and I was like, yes, I love LUDUS, which, as Sean says, automates Proxmox deploying of VMs. And so if I can go ahead and have a chat and talk to it and just have it deploy the VMs for me, I think that's kind of cool. So I decided to dive in, and I'd love to share what I learned so far on this. So I'll just dive right in. So first off, who am I? Sean Sinek already mentioned, hi, I'm Jesse. If you want, there's a picture of me. If you want to know more stuff, there's a LinkedIn on my experience. I have experience in incident response, of course. I've done pen testing, I've done advising, leadership roles, all sorts of things. I really love to do cybersecurity, though, as a hobby at home. So really like sharing my knowledge. So that's why I'm here tonight. So you can check out my GitHub there if you like. I have stuff, like too much stuff in there. But what we'll be going over today, the agenda is, what is an MCP server? In my terms, Sean pretty much said what it was, but basically I'll say in my terms, which is basically, to me, is just this AI chat that is able to chat with tools that you've created. Like the tool could be, for instance, let's talk about Shodan. It could be like, hey, you're going to use a Shodan tool and you're going to give me back information via the LLM in the chat. That's pretty much what my idea of an MCP server. Anyways, and the next thing we'll talk about is, where is LUDUS MCP server? Where do I get this? This thing sounds awesome. Then we'll go into how to install it, because I had a bit of a, you could say, trouble in installing it. I actually got a hold of the developer, and he helped me a lot in getting this thing up and going. Then we'll talk about how to use the actual Claude desktop chat client to control LUDUS to have it deploy what we want it to deploy via the chat. We don't have to use that command line that LUDUS has and say, hey, do a very specific syntax and get it right to make it work. We could just chat to it for the most part. It's not 100%. I'm still learning, but you'll see. So cool. This sounds good. Then let's go. If you want, take a screenshot, whatever. This is available to anybody here. This link will get you to the Notion. So 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3. All right, we're just going to go there. I'll also paste it. So here, let me copy and paste it into the meetup text area. There we go. I'll say LUDUS MCP server. I'll call it a workshop. Why not? Okay, cool. So now everyone there has it. So cool, here it is. So LUDUS MCP with the Claude desktop. So what it is, the simplest way that I could talk about it again is it's a chat box connected to tools. Specifically in this situation, the tools will be like LUDUS's. So if I bring up LUDUS right here, it'll be communicating with LUDUS's command line, like this command line. So we got LUDUS, like templates, list. So instead of having to do that, you'll be doing it through the chat. So it knows how to do that. So it also knows how to do LUDUS, range, status, let's call it. Oops, status. So this would be a tool that it knows. And it has a whole prompt around. We'll dig into that later, but that's basically the idea of this MCP server and how to think about it. Hopefully you're not hearing my chihuahua. He's really loud. I hope this is a good mic. All right, so continuing on, where is LUDUS? So LUDUS is, let me grab it, copy, and paste it into here. Yeah, I'm gonna put it into the chat. LUDUS, GitHub. All right, LUDUS MCP. Cool. All right, there it is. All right, so if you click on it, whoops, not this one. I'll just have it here. If you click on it, pretty much come to this person named Marshall's GitHub. He does a bunch of other things, and I have Surfshark, and I need this to be, yes, turn it off. He actually does a lot of other interesting GitHub repos. Check them out if you're interested. However, we're going to look at LUDUS MCP. So in here, you could go in here and kind of read about it. And it does have requirements like Node.js, NPM. You got to have LUDUS. You must have LUDUS if you want to talk with LUDUS. So that's a big deal, right? You got to have your own LUDUS server going on. Dog must have pushed the door open. And then network connectivity to the LUDUS server. Like if it's on your same LAN here, just SSH fine. But if it's somewhere you need a WireGuard to, then you'll have to WireGuard, that kind of stuff. For the most part, you might be able to run through this and get it going. He's actually fixed this up a lot. This actually looks a lot better. However, what we'll use is this today, because this will also show some of the things I went through. So where else can we find information? So there's a Discord, and this is a LUDUS Discord. And in there, so there's LUDUS. In there, there's a bunch of different, under general, there's a bunch of threads. And so you can go to this thread, which is the LUDUS MCP thread, where I talk a lot. And Mastodon, which is Marshall, which is the developer, talks a bunch of stuff, mostly helping me fix this thing and showing off cool features too. So if you have any questions, you could definitely dive into there and check it out. So that's a great find and a great place to get even more help if you need it. So where are the instructions for this? So the instructions are in the wiki under installation. So if we go back here, we could probably go to this wiki piece right here and go to that installation. Again, what I had to make sure I did, like if you're following along right now, I would say right now, you need to install Claude Desktop if you don't already have it. So do that while I continue talking. And then we're going to have to install Node.js. You could do that while I'm talking if you'd like. And so yeah, system requirements. Think of this though in 5 steps. So we're going to install Node.js. We're going to build out the tool, the MCP tool server, LUDUS MCP. Then we're going to set up the keying and like different parameters for the MCP server to communicate with things. And then we're going to go ahead and configure the Claude desktop and then go from there. All right, so here we are. Let's get started. Go here to claude.ai and download it. So if you go there, you'll see this. Eventually, once you download it, it'll say something like that or something like if I get a new chat going here. Yeah, let's see here, new chat. All right, so you'll see this in the end. So it's regular old binary, take a few nexts, and you'll finally get to this. So you can do this with no pro subscription right now. However, after like maybe a couple different ranges, you will run out of tokens and it will be like, hey, you need to pay for more if you want to continue on. So I do have the pro version now, but I did at first start without it. So you can definitely, if you want to just mess around, you can do it free for a little bit. So yeah, so download this, get it going, get it up. People should be done about now. Doesn't take too long. Then the next thing you want to do is install Node.js. So you want to go to this download. You want to pick, well, I only know how to do this on Windows, but it does it on other things, but I only know how to do it on Windows. So check out Windows, click on Windows, and then go down here to, well, for Windows, again, I use this .msi installer. I didn't use the standalone binary, so I use the MSI. So it'll look pretty much like this, the MSI. Be like, the next. The thing I will say is right here, you do want to checkbox this. This is not checkboxed. And this helps because it installs Chocolatey, which to install the LUDUS MCP server, it actually uses a bunch of Chocolatey to install things. So this is a must. So definitely check that. And then it's just regular next type stuff. And then eventually you'll get to a point where, not the install point, but you'll get to one area and then in the background, it'll pop up like a UAC prompt, which will pretty much show up down here on your taskbar if you're Windows. For me, I didn't see it at first, so I'm like, what's going on? Why isn't this installing? I don't get it. And so then I eventually found that it was some kind of prompt hanging out at my taskbar, went to it, approved it, and then it went on to this piece, which it just pops this up. So it pops up your prompt. The prompt will say, hey, press the key to continue. It'll continue doing things. Then it'll do another prompt saying, hey, do you allow this app to make changes to your device? Yep, you're going to want to say okay. And so I expanded just to show you what you're okaying, because when it first pops up, it's just a small pop-up, a small user account control pop-up that doesn't have what it's doing. But as you can see here, it's just installing Chocolatey. So not really a big deal there. You can inspect as you like. So once you do that, though, then this other stuff pops up. So a whole bunch of Chocolatey happens. All that stuff. All this stuff keeps going. It keeps going. It kind of hangs at certain parts, like the parts that I'm highlighting in green. There was it hung out there for a while. So I'm just highlighting kind of like, hey, just know that this VC cred list thing will take a little bit. Installing Python will take a little bit. Some other things like this Visual Studio installer took a little bit. And then eventually I got down to the very bottom and it was Visual Studio and setup. The problem with this for me in the first setup is it just stopped right here. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? And I'm just waiting and like waiting. So don't wait. It's done. It's done. You don't have to wait. So what I did is I was like, okay, is it installed? So I'm like, Node-V for Node.js is in. Okay, did npm get installed? npm-v for version. Oh yeah, it got installed. What's going on here? And so then I was like, okay, well, let me check out Chocolatey. So I'm Chocolatey list and I'm looking through, and if you look, you can see where it says Visual Studio down here at the bottom. So it's installed, so it's fine as well. But what I did is I went ahead and tried to reinstall it again. Don't do that. You don't need to. And then I re-looked at this and I was like, yep, nope, still there. No change. So again, if anybody else comes across that, it's not a big deal. I don't know why it just hangs there and just hangs. It's fine. So going forward, though, we need to install the LUDUS MCP based off of this GitHub. And he talks about it down here. And this is specific. This is important because I've done a different video somewhere else on source, which if you do it by source, then you're like Git pulling down and then you're stuck there. So when the developer updates like this stuff, like he did 3 days ago, and let's say I did it 4 days ago, then I'm missing out on all his new stuff if I don't do this global installation. That way I could actually stay up to date when using this and updating it versus the other way. You can do the other way, but right, it takes a lot of extra steps that's not needed. But this is recommended, so do the recommended. So that is the recommended. If we go back here that is, and then it installs 74 packages. Doesn't take that much time. Then I'm gonna go ahead and break from this like notion, and actually I can redo this so and not hurt anything. So I'll actually use this part and show everybody how it looks. So here's my MCP server, and it's already loaded. So I'll cancel out of this and close it out. So it's gone now. All right, so we'll go ahead and grab this and I'll paste it in here. I'll press enter. I'll make this a little bit bigger. All right, so let's see here. Did it just remember all my stuff? I think it remembered all my stuff. Oh, this is the setup. So for the setup for the first time, hang on, let me, I'm redoing this. This is like a rekey. So let's see if on the fly, can I do troubleshooting? Let's see here. I don't want to do that. I want to renew. Here we go. We'll renew. Copy. All right. So don't do that. You won't need to renew. I only need to renew because I've already got this. Just so I can show. Okay, cool. So this is what it looks like for the first time for everybody. So basically it talks about right here, the connection method. You can do either WireGuard or you can do SSH. So since LUDUS is like right over there, and I'm on the same LAN and I don't have weird network configuration problems, I'm just gonna press S for SSH tunnel. And then the LUDUS admin, which seems a little funky. So the LUDUS admin that I'm gonna use is, let me pull up 192, the Proxmox, and I'm gonna log in as root. But the admin is, I'm gonna use this JM user, and what they mean by admin is if I do LUDUS user list, this right here, admin is true. So my JM user ID is admin true. So, and that was a conflicting thing that I had to deal with when I first got this going. All right, so so we'll put JM. And then the API key. So we need the API key for JM. So for me, I'll give it to you. You can have from my test box, because if I do this, open it, as you can see, it's test. So if I do tail bash RC, I put in my bash RC so that every time I log in, it's just that. So I don't have to deal with it. So, all right, we have it. Let me move this over, paste it in here. And it's important that you don't put quotes or anything in here or that exporter, just the key. So press enter. The LUDUS server SSH host. So this is what we were just at. So this right here. So LUDUS SSH host. So I will grab that right here. Oh, minus that other thing. Colon. All right, paste. So there it is. 192.168.0.73. Enter. And then the user. So the user, if we go back to my deal here, as you can see, the user is server admin. So that's what I use to SSH into here. So we're going to use the same one, server admin. And then here, I'm just going to use the password. So password, and then don't tell anybody, but that's the password. And then are we going to use a custom URL? Nope. So it's default end, so no. And then verify SSL certificates. I don't have that going on, so no. And then so now it's checking everything and saying, yay, you're good. SSH is working. SSH verified, and all this good stuff. And this is currently, I think, is this? Oh, then it tells me, hey, do the Claude desktop configuration. All right, so if we go down, I'm just gonna fast forward all through that. That's where we get to, hey, configure Claude desktop. So this one was a little interesting as I originally looked for it. So you have to look on your host system, and if I just paste, I'm in here and I'm like, actually, if I go to roaming. So if you don't have Claude desktop installed, you're not going to have this folder. I had this situation on another box. So you need to install it first to get that folder. And then once you're in that folder, originally I thought, according to the document, that this was going to be in there. So the Claude desktop underscore config JSON, it was not. So I had to make it. So I just made it in like, I just made it in Visual Studio. So what it looks like though, if we go back to this is, and here's the, it talks about, hey, go here. And then you can just copy this from me. And then specifically, this is, you won't do this. Don't do this. So this is when I did it via the source way. So I have another video where I did it a different way. And then after doing this and talking to the developer, he's like, do it the global way. And the global way versus the source is what I have in there. The global way, you need to have it be this one. So we'll just copy that, and I'll actually just change this right now, and you can, well, I can't change it from there, but I can change it from my main system. So one moment, and then you can just refresh. Cool. And then let's see here, refresh. No, it brings you all the way to the top. Yikes. Sorry about all the scrolling. Yep, chocolatey, it pauses a lot. Took a while, then it just froze, it seemed like. Verified that stuff was on there. Yep, and then installed LUDUS, and then did the keying of getting the SSH going, and then eventually said, hey, do the configuration. Not that particular one that's in this piece, which I should probably recommend you put the other one in there if that's the recommended. I think I'll do that. I will let Marshall know. All right, and then here it is. Cool. All that for that refresh. Cool. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go back. Not here. Back here. Well, it's probably already like that. Oh, geez. And of course, it goes to a different screen. So one moment as I figure out how to move this thing. Yep, so it's already there. I already have it. So, okay, so that way it knows how to communicate. So that's done with the desktop. So once we do that, we can just start the server. So let's go ahead, go back down here. Oh yeah, sweet. That is not what I meant to copy and paste. So let's try that again. This time I'll just use the copy button. Yes, okay, cool. All right, let's start. And then eventually you'll get what we originally saw, which is it started. All right, LUDUS MCP server started successfully. Awesome. Great. Let's see. Now that's up. So with just, I'm going to make a side note because I can't remember if it did it with the SSH. I don't think it did, but when I did the, instead of SSH, I did WireGuard. It actually, when you open up WireGuard, it actually made one for me and put it here and turned it on. I'm like, cool. I think it turned it on. Maybe I had to turn it on. Actually, second thought. I think I had to turn it on. I did have to turn it on. But it put it in here, and I was like, oh, okay. So I turned it on, and then I could talk to the ranges when I wanted to access them. So anyways, I don't think it's a big deal at this point. But to access the ranges, we'll need it on. So, but if you have a range anyways, like you have the, I do, I just have the thing there, and so I can have it on. All right, so let's go on. Okay, so this is the other part. So Claude actually has to be restarted. So up here, file, exit is the way I know how to restart it, and then I make sure it's restarted by looking at my taskbar and making sure it's not in there anymore, running, and then I can double click on my desktop, get Claude to open up, and then now it should be able to be talking to the LUDUS, this server up here. So this is the part that's kind of, I was a little thrown off with as well. So this part has an add from LUDUS. So that client configuration added this stuff. So there's two things. There's the, if you want to create a range, so use this to create your LUDUS range. And then there's this to do a command. Although I don't think you need to do that to do the command, but okay, it's there. But I'm going to use it just to show you the prompt that it does, because there's some prompting that this comes with, right? Some specialized handling of what you put in the chat. So I'm just going to put that in there. And then here's the prompt input. So like command intent, let's say, give me the LUDUS range example range. LUDUS example range. How about that? Give me the LUDUS example range. Target users JM. Confirm destruct. Do not. Do not destroy anything. Yeah. And so I'll add the prompt. So here's the prompt down here, which this was another thing that kind of threw me off. I didn't understand what this was. So if you open it up, this is like this is the prompting that it's doing. So let's see, can I make this bigger? I can make things around it bigger. That's funny. Well, if anyone was at my Fabric talk about Fabric AI, I basically went into all the prompts that it had, and it looked pretty much like this. So this is this is a prompt explaining, hey, step 1, safety assessment, analyze the intent, give me the LUDUS example range. So it's going to analyze the intent of that. It's going to determine if it's, is this an informational command? Is it a command? Is this a deployment command? Destructive command? No, it's not a destructive. Step 2, it'll wonder like, what tool am I supposed to like use? Are you going to use the range deployment part, like deploy range? Are you going to do the destroy range, which we're not going to do that here? Are you going to get the get range status command, the list user range? What tool, what check are you going to use? What preference? Then it'll go on to, I'm going to skip some of the stuff like the destructive commands. It's going to check admin operation against my target user. Does it affect another user's resource? Ensure the proper authorization. Like just a lot of prompting context for the chat. So I'm not just like, right, putting in a chat and it goes off. It's like, nope, you're putting what I just put in the prompt and then all that extra prompt. So all you have to do now is over here on this arrow key, press the arrow key, that sends off that prompt with all that extra context. And so now it's doing, as you can see, step one, it's doing the safety assessment, it's checking out what is it going to use. It's going to use the get range config. Okay, cool. What does that mean? It means that these things are in that config. So in the example config in LUDUS, it comes with an example config. So if I bring up LUDUS, let me explain that piece. So if you go LUDUS, range, config, get example, if I just press enter, then it gives me this example config, which is like a Windows 2022. They make it a domain controller, and then they put in a Windows 11, and then they join that to the, I think it joined that. Yep. They make it a member of the domain, and then they throw a Kali box in. And the Kali box is on a different VLAN where like these ones are on VLAN 10 and 10. So that is the example range that's built into LUDUS. And so I basically, hey, run that command and give me this, and that's what it's doing, but more verbose, right? It's like, hey, watch out, it's like 8 gigs of RAM, it's 4 CPUs, la 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 la. And then at the bottom, it'll say, would you like me to help you customize this config? It's like, yes, I do. So yes, or I should say, let's change the the IP last octet of Kali to be 13 because I number 13 for Kali, and the Windows 2022 server last octet to 22 because it's a Windows 2022, and Windows 11 last octet to 11, and all boxes need only 4 gigabytes instead of 8 of RAM, and they all can be on the same VLAN, right? VLAN 10. Press enter. And so instead of like grabbing this config and editing it, like I would have to say, get this example, put it into example config jesse.yaml, and then I'd have to say nano example like this, and then I have to go in here and be like, okay, I need to move this one to 22, right? Then I need to move this RAM to 4, and then I need to do, right? Instead of doing all that, it's just doing it for me. So now it looks like it went from Kali, it put on VLAN 10, basically did what I said. I won't verbosely go through all that, but it's doing what I said, which is great. And then I could probably deploy that. So that's cool. That command was neat. So let me try something else. Let's see. Hey, California weather. All right, let's do the other one. So the other prompt, so there's another prompt. So there was 2. So the other prompt here is to do the range. So create LUDUS range. Actually, let me real quick. What are the tools available to this MCP server? See if it recognizes itself. Okay, so these are all the tools. So it can do all these things like deploy the range and get a range status and destroy the range, and kind of, we heard this before, right? You can do the configuration management of it. You can do credential stuff. You can power on, power off ranges. So like if I have, let's say here's JM, and it looks like I have this vulnhub webmin on there. So I can say power off the JM webmin server. I guess that's a lot. Only. and we'll see. But if I go up here, what else has it got? Yeah, it's got, these are just like all the tools that it does. Basically a bunch of LUDUS things and extra things too. Like there's schemas. So the schema is really interesting because that is something custom in this LUDUS MCP. So if we go to schemas, you'll see it already has like, hey, I know how to deploy a Cobalt Strike team server. I know how to do a Mythic team server. I know how to do Tailscale or Exchange or Waza or Bloodhound or Elastic Agent. So like if you want to do your incident response or your forensics or your pen testing or whatever, it's got all these things it knows about, or Vulnhub, and it can pretty much deploy that easily because it knows schema. While we're here, let's go into base configs. Okay, that's base configs. Let's go into source. So this is kind of neat. So like here's the prompts. So if you go back, so what we were looking at, like execute LUDUS commands, right? And then create LUDUS range. So if we go to commands, so this is a TS file, which is like Microsoft's TypeScript. So it's like a subset of JavaScript. And this is pretty much kind of some programming, and then it goes into the prompting pieces that we saw earlier on how it needs to take instruction for the thing. So there's that prompt, and then here's the range. So again, hey, understand clarity, analyze the user requirements, consider the roles that are involved, extract certain things via the natural language, so forth and so on. You can check out these prompts later to really dig deep in how these things work. So let's see, what is, I wonder, source, there's another area, tools. So if you want to check out the tools, here are the tools, like to deploy a range. This is, again, these are all in TypeScript. So if you go in there, you can kind of see what it's doing to interact and take instructions. So back to this Claude Desktop and it talking about the different tools. So that was just a minor road trip there. So let's go ahead and pull up that thing to see if it powered it off. It did not power it off. What? Well, that's unfortunate. What? Maybe I have to, I shouldn't have to say like this whole name. Maybe I do. So let's see here. Didn't I ask it to power it down? Power off. I'll power off the JM server. This is powered off option. I need to confirm this action. It may interrupt the process. Oh, I had to confirm. Oh, whoops. Yes, I confirm. Turn off the webmin. Please and thank you. Please and thank you. Okay, go. Okay, I'll power off the JM Vulnhub webmin server from the user. Okay, so if I open this up, we can kind of see what it's doing with this tool. So again, it's grabbing JM. Then it has the response. Range VM successfully powered off for JM. Next steps. This has been powered off. And so if I go over here, as you can see, it's off. So I didn't have to come over here and like stop it. And I didn't have to go into here and tell it LUDUS power off in all, or in the certain name, whatever it was, this name, and do that, right? I just had to talk to it kind of in that desktop. So cool. So let's like let's deploy a range. So we're gonna go and look at that other prompt. So create LUDUS range. So I'm just going to do this. We're going to make a small little range so it can go fast. So I'm going to say create a Windows 11 and add tail scale to it in the JM range. Okay, so the roles that we're going to use tail scale. And if we had other roles, like back when we looked at that schema and like there was like a whole range, like if ADCS is a role, that there. Or if it was a WASA to deploy WASA, I'd put this there, but I'd also talk about it in the requirements. And then save config, I can save this null 404 win11 tail config. And then so add the prompt. And then again, here's the prompt down here. If I expand that prompt, I wish I could make it bigger. Cannot. That's about as big as I can go. All right. So again, it's a lot of context. It's a lot of instructions. Hey, step 1, do these things. Step 2, do these things. Optimization, external role handling. Hey, if the requirements aren't covered by the official LUDUS role, ask the users with options. Hey, you can search the internet to find these roles because we don't have it in a repo of schemas of roles, and all those other options. Then you can have build your range config, design the complete VM architect. Let's see, there's just so much to go through, but every so often you'll see like little hints of like what you put in the prompt. Like right here, it says prioritize the user specified role tail scale where applicable. So it definitely takes what you've inputted in there and puts it in different parts to make sure that it does get executed. The other thing that's nice about this, it does this role and dependencies. Like it says, hey, important, when you do this, you need to do this sequentially. And if a role depends on another role, then use like depends on parameter. Like for instance, Elastic is notorious for that. So like you can't like deploy Elastic if you don't already have the container, the server, right? You need to have the server first, and then you can put the agent on the machine. So there's like dependencies there. So these are really cool pieces of this prompt where it's like, hey, you must handle it a certain way. So I'll leave this for others to really dig in. It's just so much to go over in such little time. So with that, again, all you have to do is hit the button. And because it's tail scale, for the first time, it should ask me for my tail scale credentials, which I will not share here. Well, I can remove it anyways. Maybe I will share it. So, all right. So what does it say? It's understanding and clarifying. Yep, Windows 11. Yep, I want VPN on it. Yep, on my JM. Okay, step 2, research phase. Perfect. I can see that right here is a tail scale role, so I'm going to use that role since it's in the schema. Cool, great. So it understands that, and on the right here, it's building out the role as you can see. And then I'm going to go down some, build the range config. That's what it did right. Step 4, validation. Let's see here. All user requirements addressed, no missing functionality. I don't know about that. You haven't asked me for my tail skills. So as you know, AI likes to do, it's very verbose. I'm looking for, okay, here we are. Before deployment, you'll need to provide 2 tail scale credentials. Okay, this is where I was hoping it would do. To deploy this config, save this config if desired, write it later, provide tail scale credentials. Okay, and then, okay, so would you like me to proceed with any of these steps? I can save the config to the file, sure. Help you set up the tail scale credentials, yes. This is what we want. So help, yeah, so you got to tell it everything. Help me So, the good piece is get the tail scale. The good thing is you can do things in natural language. For the technical person, you might be able to do things faster because you like the right, and you don't want to read all this stuff. Okay, so this is doing some really cool security things where it's using variables over here and it's asking you for your credentials, which is, by the way, in your control panel. Yeah, you'll get to see some stuff. I don't care. User account, credential manager, and then you go to Windows credential. Okay, and then in Windows credential, it has credentials for all sorts of things, and in there it has this. So here it is right here for me. I've done it before, but this is where this is going to put it and retrieve it for it. So, one moment as I get my keys for tail scale. All right, so where are the keys? There it is. So the first key, and if it doesn't show it, it's the auth key. If I say okay, maybe it shows it down here. Here it is, auth key, just in case you're wondering. And the next one is the API key. And so it'll also say it, but again, if you're doing this for the first time, you're like, what key do you want? Because this part doesn't tell you. But if you go down here and expand it, it tells you API key. So yeah, cool. Credentials successfully stored. Doing the thing. I'm gonna exit that piece out. All right. So Tailscale credentials are now securely stored in your manager, which I just showed you. And then, okay, yep. How to get the keys from Tailscale. Oh, well, I already did that. And then, okay, so what's the next thing? Let's deploy this. We'll just deploy it if I say that. Let's just say that. Deploy this. All right, it's going to start the deployment process. So let me pull up this. I had one previously. I wonder if it's going to see that and turn it on. Or it'll prompt me and say, I don't know about that. What do you want me to do? Because it's just so verbose. Let's find out. All right. It says it started successfully. I do like how it's like, hey, expect a timeline of 5 to 10 minutes. Tail scale takes this long, total time this. I do like how it's very verbose in those. Like it reminds you, hey, that's 8 gigs of RAM you're using and 4 CPUs. Oh, let me move this. So there, it saw my old one and it spun it up. So it probably just says, oh, I see you had an old one. Let me spin it up and install Tailscale on it. So that is what it's doing. Yeah. See, it's like it's running. Oh wait, no, Debian's running Snipe It's. Oh, it's inventorying everything that was in my JM. So like my Snipe It IT, my Vuln hub, and my workstation. So that's also kind of nice. Like tell me all that stuff. And then it'll tell me what's happening now. And then let's see here. Next steps. Okay, the deployment is progressing normally. I recommend checking back 10, 15 minutes, continuing monitoring, blah, blah, blah. And I could say, what is the status of the range deploy instead of typing that out in the CLI, and it should say that it's deploying. But it's basically running the CLI. Overall error. Oh, that's great. What failed? The Windows 11 unreachable. I don't know about that. It might have rebooted or something. So it was unreachable for a moment. But eventually it'll put Tailscale here. like this, and it'll be connected. And then, yeah, you can access that VM from wherever you want. All right, so let's go back to the Notion and wrap up. Get rid of all these tail scale things. Oh, okay. Cool. All right, so there's all that. Oh yeah, so here's Marshall Price, amazing developer of the N server, the LUDUS MCP. He is on LinkedIn if you want to check him out. Connect with him, or again on Discord. Go over there, connect with him if you have any questions. Guided, super helpful, great person, willing to help with whatever. There is a page on his GitHub that talks about the LUDUS range and prompts in more details. And yeah, you can only go for so long in free mode and your play to something that can handle context. So with that, I thank you. Appreciate you for hanging out and seeing what's up. Are there any questions? Yeah, I know it's MCP server, right? It's like, what is that? Such a buzzword these days.
No, great talk. This is it's so I was curious. So did it inject in all the code then for installing Tailscale automatically as part of that like boot?
Yeah, so it so if we pull, so there it has, I should pull, it has the role. It has the role. So yeah, it knew about, so if we go back MCP, we go schemas, it knows about Tailscale because it's right here. So it pulls this Ansible role for Tailscale and uses this. But in this role, the only requirement is that you give it that auth key and that API key. So that's why we had to give it to Claude so that it could fill in this blank. And then, yeah, it just basically ran this against, and that installed Tailscale and injected my keys so that it can be connected to my Tailscale.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, Ansible's amazing.
Yeah, I shared out something in the chat too. Since I know it might come up, is that you for folks just to be aware, you can do this with other AI tools outside of Claude. You can do like local LLMs as well, like LM Studio or Olama. They have MCP support. So if you wanted to kind of keep everything internal, that is one way to do it. I know also like there's tons of other programs, extensions, tools that can leverage MCP as well with like OpenAI and things like that. So there's a lot of options out there.
Yeah, with any MCP client, he just gives the example of Claude Desktop for sure.
Yeah, because I think you just as long as you got that JSON snippet that you had, then that's pretty much all you need. I was actually just testing this out with LM Studio as you're giving this talk.
Oh, nice, awesome, that's cool. Well, with LM Studios. Okay.
Yeah, because it's got an MCP thing built right into it.
Huh. So, and you're just using that with Olama, I'm assuming?
I'm using it with the OpenAI model that they released recently, and LM Studio. It's kind of like Olama, but it's kind of separate. And then you can specify MCP servers to point to, and then when you go and query it, it will then, just like you did with Claude Desktop, it will choose to go, if need be, choose to go use a the MCP server versus trying to guess what to do on its own.
Nice. Yeah, I use LM Studio for Llama, but that's news to me, man. That's cool that you could point it to MCP servers. Cool.
Yeah, I think if you're using like the latest version, there's an option on it.
Yeah, I haven't used it in a little bit.
I'm curious, anybody here mess around with MCP servers? Or have anything that they want to bring up on the topic? James, have you?
I have not. Nothing worth mentioning anyway.
Yeah, it's so crazy. I'm still learning. So you're just seeing the stuff that I'm learning, fiddling around, experimenting with this, working with the developer. I just really wanted to understand MCP server hype was all about. And
Oh
from
yeah.
my perspective, like you're still under the mercy